I'm curious about the psychology book personally. Do you have like a brief synopsis of what that looks like?
So, long story short, you need to learn how to be resilient. I think a lot of people are not so resilient in life, and they get flustered when things go poorly. And I think the best poker players are pretty good at playing well, even when things are going badly, and then they're pretty good at showing up the next day ready to play again. Well, they don't go on like lifelong tilt issues or month-long tilt issues.
Oh, yeah.
Tilt
You have to
spells.
have that trade. It sort of selects for that stuff.
Well, it does select for it, especially at the high stakes, but a lot of people don't have this trait. I mean,
Yeah.
I get emails from recreational players all the time, or I see it in the YouTube comments. I'm on a big downswing. I lost 4 tournaments in a row. What am I supposed to do? Can't win anymore. It's like, man, you lost 4 tournaments in a row.
Well,
Like-
I don't know if that trait, I don't know if that precludes them from having that trait. I don't know if I would want more information, because just because someone does that, they might just have the wrong frame for poker, because in other things, this can seem quite disastrous, but for poker, it isn't necessarily. But there's loads of things where really, actually, it's not so disastrous, I would say. Such as like you're trying to get a sponsorship, trying to sell your product or whatever the fuck. To be fair, it probably does suggest that they don't have a whole lot of experience in things that aren't very that are risky.
Yeah, but I mean,
At
like
least suggest that.
you need to learn to be comfortable with risky stuff if you're going to be a poker player, right? And
For
there
sure.
are various traits you need to really focus on developing if you don't have them.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people just approach poker as they are naturally and think they can just do whatever they would naturally do. It'll work out, and it'll work out, but it won't. You have to gotta play well all the time, right? And that's easier said than done.
I do think poker this is one of the reasons why I decided to champion poker, actually, because I think it trains resilience. I think it trains a lot of these traits, humility, things like that, whereas there's not a whole lot of things that really train these things in like relatively safe environments. I actually think
I generally agree.
Harder.
I mean, especially when it comes to, call it safe or calculated risk-taking decisions. I mean, I think things like fitness are very good for this kind of thing, but it's not really risk-taking because you don't want to take risks so much in terms of like building your body or whatever. Whereas poker does force you into that. But I agree that resilience and like call it grit is a very, very valuable skill that we'll need to develop in life in general, because it lets you get up and keep on going even when things get tough.
Okay, so 2 questions for the psychology book. Did you write about that? And did you write anything about the psychology of like other players and how to like deal with it? Or excuse me, how to deal with other people's psychological states, and how certain events in poker affect people's play? Did you write about that subject?
So we wrote about resilience a lot. That was a lot of the topic of the first book. We did not discuss things like this player is clearly on tilt, therefore we should be doing blank against them. Although I do discuss that in my...
It's not just on tilt. It's also like, in what way are they going to tilt, right? Because if someone's on tilt, what the fuck does that mean? Like, that means they could be going insane. They could decide to just knit it up and not run any bluffs or something like that. I mean, there's various different kinds of tilt.
Right. And so in my book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em, I discussed that. It's not like totally in depth. It's not a whole book on the topic, but it's 10 or 15 pages on the topic of how you can tilt and then what to do against people who are tilting like this. Like knitting it up, right? Some people lose a big pot and they go super nitty. Even though you can like tell they're fuming, they're just not going to do anything. Other people play super nitty for a while, then they get the jack 4 and they go off for fun. So you got to figure that kind of thing out. But that's a very difficult topic to teach, right? Because it's hard to predict what people are going to do if you don't have a lot of experience with them. Although there are patterns that people typically fall into.
Right. Well, and that's something I'm personally interested in. I have seen some of these patterns, by the way, and they vary based off of certain demographics. But a big one, I'll give a big one for many of the American poker players is that I would say that they tend to. I'm trying to think if this is going to bite me in the ass.
You got to be careful talking about demographics. Go ahead, anyway. Or giving away all the secrets. You got to be careful talking about demographics and giving away all your secrets.
I will say that if they have a big loss or make a big mistake, they're very unlikely to like do something very experimental in some direction that is like bluff, for example.
You expect
I
them
would
to
say
play just a little bit more cautiously and not make another mistake,
well,
potential mistake.
yes, but
They're making a different mistake in exchange.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
if they're like backed or something like that. That's a pretty important one, just because it takes really some balls of steel to override that, and it's possibly stupid anyway. Because if you have like a backer and like it looks and you do this, and unless they're very understanding, then they're going to judge you, and you might lose your backing. But like stuff like that, for example, it's a bit important for poker. I mean, there's also sometimes people are really absent-minded, and sometimes they are very what's the word, like overconfident, like that kind of thing can matter a lot for players that are less than top quality.
Yeah, I think a lot of these things are very important to consider against players who are not so top quality. Whereas the players who are like the best players in the world, they do have balls of steel, and they are not afraid to make the play they think is right. And even when they do get beat up a few hands in a row or whatever, they can still sit there and do it.
Sure.
I remember a long time ago as a kid, I got hit by the baseball when I was playing baseball. I got hit by the ball. I got sent to first base, and I was probably like 12 years old. And then the signal to steal was the coach was to put his hands on his hips. So he did all the signals, whatever. Then he put his hands on his hips. I'm like, oh man, I just got hit by the ball and this guy wants me to steal. And I was like, short, slow kid. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to go. And I went, and nobody could believe that I stole. And the coach was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's like, he told me to steal, but he didn't realize that he put his hands on his hips. And
oh, really?
You just gotta have your balls and do it.
Steal,
you just gotta do it.
And they don't expect you to steal.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really don't expect someone to bluff their stack off again because they just bluff their stack off and you think they're going to be a little bit too nitty, that could be very costly for you. So
Sure.
now we know next time I run a big bluff and I'm playing against you, I got to try it again.
If you happen to play some live poker, you got to know what the rake is. You got to know what realistic win rates are. You got to know this kind of stuff. Speaking of which, on the Jungleverse, we provide many resources to help many of you up-and-coming players in order to avoid many pitfalls that many people play, also to avoid getting cheating. We provide some details of what to look out for. We have a map of what the best online sites are to play at and why, and what kind of games you're looking for. If you want to try your luck and try to strike it rich, playing tournaments, why not? The math's a bit against you. We have the resources for that too.